Oh boy, I do not like this airport. So, because my flight from San Francisco was 3.5 hours late, a United 1K agent picked me up at the door of my aircraft to take me straight to my connecting flight to Istanbul. After flying 10 hours over this giant rock that we all live on, I did finally make it to Paris, where our journey continues onwards to Istanbul. Famously named after the French military general that led the Free French Army against the Nazis in World War II, Charles de Gaulle International Airport is Paris's main airport, and particularly we were flying out of Terminal 1, where Turkish Airlines and a lot of other carriers leave from. This terminal, and quite honestly this airport as a whole, is just such a big mess. Within just Terminal 1 itself, if you want to connect between any of the satellite buildings, you have to make your way back to the central circle and then branch out to the other buildings from there. And if your flight is connecting between Terminal 1 and Terminal 2, God bless you. Today's journey is a roughly 2.5 hour journey across much of Europe from Paris over to Istanbul. Once I re-cleared security, there was a common Terminal 1 board showing all the different departures so you knew exactly which satellite building you had to make your way towards. The good thing is once I reached the gate I realized we hadn't even started boarding yet. Turkish does this interesting thing where sometimes they'll have the boarding slated at a whole hour before departure, but they won't even start boarding until just about 30 minutes before departure. So with that little bit of extra time, I went to a nearby shop and got a bottle of water because of all that hustling, I was really thirsty. Now, this terminal did have a Star Alliance lounge that I could have used with my Star Alliance Gold status, but I quite frankly didn't even bother trying to find it because of how little time I had. Boarding did eventually begin after a little bit of stalling, and even though I was boarding with the Star Alliance Gold and Business Class lane, Economy Class is supposed to be a zone-based boarding, but quite frankly it's a free-for-all and everyone lines up at the same time. Now, even after beginning boarding a whole 30 minutes after we were supposed to, we still ended up waiting outside of the jetway for at least another 20 minutes before we actually got to walk on the plane. Like, truth be told, if my lazy butt had known any better, I would have gladly sat down for another 20 minutes and just boarded later.
What is your seat number?
88.
Okay, thank you. Hello, please take a second. I have the door.
Today's seat happened to be at the bulkhead row, where waiting for us at every seat was a pair of earphones as well as a nice pillow. Now the bulkhead seat is both good and bad. You don't have any under seat space, however you do have a lot more leg room. And in this seat's particular case there was also a coat hook directly in front of me which didn't really impede into my leg space. Between each pair of seat was a single power port, so do play nice with your neighbor. On the brighter side, if you can charge with just a USB port, you'll have that at your TV monitor itself. Now, even though we did board the plane really late, like 50 minutes late, we actually did end up boarding the whole plane within 25 minutes and we were ready to go.
İnşallah sağ salim varız aslında.
İnşallah en önemlisi o.
Evet öyle.
Wi-Fi was available on this flight, and if you're connecting through an iPhone, you can connect to it from the settings and it will do the usual captive redirecting where it'll take you to a fairly easy and interactive UI. And from here you come to the login page and you can see that the Wi-Fi is free depending on your status or if you're a business class passenger, and otherwise you have the paid options for the Wi-Fi, different tiers depending on what kind of use you want. If you're the classic WhatsApp or WeChat message spammer, likely you'll need the last one for sure. The Inflight Entertainment also had a decent variety of options. If I can just get it to open. Oh, this is not a good first impression. Okay, there we go. So there's a variety of movies and TV shows, and even amongst the movies, if we take a quick look deeper, as you can see, there's quite a number of selections across a variety of different topics, and the movies are pretty up to date too, so kudos to Turkish there for keeping the movie selection relatively good. There's also an In-Flight Entertainment map that keeps up with the flight. Overall, this whole In-Flight Entertainment was just pretty responsive, which was great. Turkish flies a variety of different aircrafts, even to the same destination. Given that this was an A330, the 242 layout was a relatively comfortable one and great for even longer flights. Lunchtime eventually came around and boy, the inner fat man inside of me was ready to go. Turkish's food has a reputation and I was ready to experience it. Now, I'm not one of those people that throws a big fit about plastic versus metal cutlery in economy class, but metal cutlery is a nice touch and it's easier to eat with compared to plastic. With that said, the green beans were delicious. They were drenched in some kind of tangy sauce and dressed up an otherwise bland vegetable. The main course was excellent. We had a choice of beef or pasta and clearly I went with the beef. The beef itself was juicy, super flavorful, even the rice had a little bit of salt and flavor and it was sauteed really well, and the vegetables included onions, squash, and tomatoes, and that was also delicious. Now I normally hate tomatoes and they still made it enjoyable for me. Now I was enjoying all of this while also being treated to some crisp views of the Swiss Alps right below us. Coming back to our current meal, the last thing remaining here was dessert, and it was some kind of blueberry pudding and it was absolutely delicious. Just as we were wrapping things up, we were flying just due south of Zagreb, so if you were feeling like a little bit of Croatia in your system, this is your opportunity to jump off and see where you land. As we crossed through Croatia, we made our way into the region that was the rest of the Balkan countries. Oh, by the way, these guys are really friendly with each other. They love everything about each other. They love each other's food, culture, sports teams, you name it. Anyways, all that aside, this was a really solid flight by Turkish. Anytime you have a wide-body plane with a 242 configuration, it's going to be a comfortable ride for those in economy class. Other cool features were that there were power ports between every seat, there was even a USB charger at every single seat's screen if you needed it, as well as reasonably speed Wi-Fi on board. And of course, I can't forget the most important piece, the food. Turkish Airlines is truly the gold standard when it comes to airline food, and this even stands in economy class. From their powerful catering provider to just the quality of Turkish food in general, this was an excellent meal even for a 2-hour flight. As far as flights go from the rest of Europe into Istanbul, when you have competing carriers such as British Airways, Lufthansa, Air France, there really is no competition. Turkish Airlines should be your go-to choice for flights like these.